This is Mike Money in the Money Pit. Today I want to talk about a great band, Judas fucking Priest. They were formed in 1969 in West Bromwich and originally had 5 different members than the ones most people know of, which I didn't know. I knew they had a different singer than Halford, but I did not know this. The band, as most knew it, were Rob Halford on vocals, Glenn Tipton and KK Downing on twin lead guitars, and Ian Hill was the bassist. They had quite a few different drummers, starting with John Hinch, Alan Moore, Simon Phillips, Les Binks, Dave Holland, and Scott Travis. Their debut album in 1974 was Rock-A-Rolla. It didn't do real well, but people might remember the song Rock-A-Rolla or Never Satisfied. To me, what I remember about this album was the original cover had a Coke bottle cap that said Rock-A-Rolla, like Coca-Cola. They got sued. Go figure, a band no one ever heard of at the time got sued by Coca-Cola. Had to change the album cover. Isn't that a great start for this band? 1976, my personal sentimental favorite, Sad Wings of Destiny, was released. This had great ones like Victim of Changes, Jacob Carver saying The Ripper, Genocide, and Tyrant. Then we go to 1977 for their first major label release, Sin After Sin, which had Sinner, Starbreaker, Dissident Aggressor, and Joan Baez's cover of Diamonds and Rust. Then we go to 78, Stained Class. This was very controversial. I'll get into this a little later. This had songs like Exciter, Savage, Better by You, Better Than Me. Okay, I'm reading my thing. Better by You, Better Than You. Better by You, Better Than Me, which was a Spooky Tooth cover. And my favorite ever Judas Priest song, Beyond the Realms of Death. Later in 78, they released Killing Machine, and in America it was called Hellbent for Leather. Not only the 2 total tracks you had Evening Star, Take On All the World, Burning Up, Before the Dawn, Running Wild, and Peter Green of Fleetwood Mac wrote one called The Green Manalishi with the 2-pronged crown. This album got the metal fans' attention. I think it was the first one that got people to sort of looking. Then, what they did in 1979, they released Unleashed in the East, which was a live album. Well, then brings us into 1980. Probably, they started to leave their mark on the metal industry with British Steel. Songs like Breaking the Law, Metal Gods, Grinder, and Living After Midnight put them on the map. 1981, they put out Point of Entry, which had such songs as Heading Out to the Highway, Hot Rockin', and Desert Plains. Okay, 1982. This was the album that put them on the map, probably the most well-known album, Screaming for Vengeance, with Hellion, Electric Eye, obviously the title track, Take These Chains, Pain and Pleasure, Devil's Child, and You've Got Another Thing Coming. 1984, Defenders of the Faith, with Free Will Burning, The Sentinel, Love Bites, and Some Heads Are Gonna Roll. We go to 1986 where they released Turbo. A lot of people didn't like this. This was more your 80s hair band. Rob Halford actually had long hair. He never had any hair, but he had long hair on this album. Turbo Lover, Locked In, Parental Guidance, and Out in the Cold. This was the first concert I saw with them, with Dokken opening up. Rockin' with Dokken. 1988, they released Ram It Down, with such songs as Blood Red Skies, I'm a Rocker, and believe it or not, a Chuck Berry cover of Johnny Be Good. I saw this tour with Cinderella. 1990, they released Jacob's favorite, probably, Painkiller. Nightcrawler, Painkiller, A Touch of Evil. I saw this one, Operation Rock and Roll. It was a co-headline tour with Alice Cooper, which also had Metal Church and Dangerous Toys, and Motorhead. But of course the show I went to, Lemmy broke his hip the day before. So no Motorhead for you. Okay, right about here was the 90s. They got sued for subliminal messages because of the album Stained Class. Basically 2 kids got drunk, got stoned, and listened to Stained Class over and over again and heard voices. So they decided to do a suicide pact. One died, the other went boom and blew his face off, but did not die right away. So they went to court. They said subliminal messages, which I don't understand, because subliminal messages means you can't hear it. It's in the subconscious. where it was a turn on the song Better by You, Better Than Me, or Better by You, Better Than You. On that song, there's part of it you hear, "Do it." And these kids heard that and said, well, it means I should commit suicide. I think the kids were a little messed in the head, to say the least. Judge laughed it out of court. Also this year, Halford left Priest. Some of them think, because he came out as gay, some think that is why they sort of had tension there. But he went and joined a band called Fight. So Priest brought in Tim Ripper Owens, who was basically from a Judas Priest cover band, and if you've ever seen the movie Rockstar, it's based on that. They released Jugulator and Demolition. It was very heavy, but I don't think the fans liked it because they missed the voice of Halford. 2005, Rob Halford comes back. They released Angel of Retribution. This was the last time I would see them in concert. Queensryche opened up for them, did all the old school Queensryche. Priest did a lot of the classics. This was a really good album. Since then, they've released 3 more albums, and some say they're good, but you know what? I'm more of a classic guy, and the fact that they sort of booted KK Downing out of the band, and there's medical issues with Glenn Tipton, I don't know what you're seeing anymore. But I'll end this with a little shout out to Marcia Bailey. I'm sure she's watching somewhere, not. In 1984, when I would have been a senior in high school, I was a casual Judas Priest fan. I knew British Steel, I knew Screaming for Vengeance. I guess was just released, was Defenders of the Faith. So I was sort of into it, but we would drive around. We would be out partying, smoking the dopage, smoking the doobage. And she would play Sad Wings of Destiny, Sin After Sin, and I'm pretty sure Stained Class. I never would have heard the old stuff, wouldn't be the Judas Priest fan that I am today without Marcia. So I want to give a shout out to her. She also would jam to Y&T, but that's another video for another time. Anyway, Judas Priest, great band, arguably still a great band, but it was an awesome band back in the day. This is Mike Money from the Money Pit saying rock and rolla.